He spent his whole life believing that weak people should stay hidden, while the strong lived under the sunlight. Ignored by everyone, Teru accepted being invisible. Until one night, he accidentally discovered the terrifying secret of the most perfect girl in school. The beautiful, rich, untouchable Xian Rei was secretly fighting gangs, smoking at night, and living a completely different life behind everyone's backs. Now the loneliest boy in school is being forced to stay by her side 24 hours a day to keep her secret safe. But the more time they spend together, the more he realizes something terrifying. At first, Teru thought that living beings had their own way of dividing habitats. The weak hid in the grass, while the strong walked proudly under the sunlight. Next, a scene was shown in the classroom where some boys were talking among themselves. One of them commented that Kenta had brought a game to school. Another boy said that if it was Yamasan, he probably wouldn't notice. A third exclaimed excitedly, and the first suggested that they play after class. Teru was sitting silently at his desk until he suddenly called out, "Hey!" Addressing those boys with a tense expression, he stammered that he also played that game a lot, that he had already completed it 4 times, and that he had reached the maximum level. Another of the boys turned toward Teru, muttered an awkward reply, and then looked away again. Panicking, Teru sat down with trembling hands while the boys mocked him, saying that nobody had asked him to show off and that they had clearly heard him. Another boy wondered out loud if Teru wanted to join the conversation, but another dismissed the idea and said there was no way they would include him. The boy sitting in front of Teru told him to know his place. With a tense expression, Teru thought about the division of habitats as a way for the weak to protect themselves. The scene then changed to 10 years later. A school building appeared, and Maika Jetaru was playing a video game at his desk while some boys beside him talked among themselves. One said that the game he had recently bought was really fun. Another asked if it was the horror game they had talked about earlier, and the first confirmed it. The second complained that he hadn't been able to sleep because of it, and the first mocked him for ignoring his girlfriend again just to play. The conversation was interrupted when someone pointed at Shon Gi. The students around her reacted by saying that she looked perfect that day as well. One student identified Shon as the daughter of an extremely wealthy Sabatu family. Another mentioned that she had ranked first in the class on the last mock exam. Teru watched silently while more students commented that she had apparently won first place in the city karate tournament and that she excelled both academically and athletically, describing her as the definition of a perfect beautiful girl. Teru thought that he already knew that, because it was like that every morning. A student called out to Rei, asking for help with math, and Rei replied that she would study complex numbers with Sato-san. The students then excitedly asked her about love letters, house parties, choir competitions, and help with the karate club. Rei calmly responded to each of them, telling them to leave their schedules on her desk, accepting an invitation to a house party, and saying that she was writing a reply to Shimiken's letter. Teru wondered if Rei was like Prince Shatoku, capable of listening to everything at once. And once the crowd around her finally dispersed, Teru sighed and once again thought that the weak stayed hidden in the grass while the strong walked proudly under the sunlight. Then he wondered if the game he was playing was too harsh on solo players. Nearby, some students excitedly suggested adding each other as friends in the same game. Teru, playing silently, thought that he didn't need to be popular, but he wished he had at least one friend to play with. The scene then shifted to a video game store. Teru was sitting alone in front of an arcade machine and thought that he was completely alone in the arcade. After checking his watch, he saw that it was already 10 at night and decided that he would play Zombie and Gun one more time and then go home as the perfect way to end the day. When he approached the game, he noticed that someone was already there and thought it was strange to see a girl there in front of him. He wondered if she was smoking and whether the place even allowed it. He thought she had a striking appearance and noticed that her aim was terrible. Teru tried to give her advice, telling her that she had to press the button and stop the attacks, but she died in the game and then kicked the machine, leaving him shocked. When Teru nervously tried to speak, the girl angrily approached him, grabbed him by the collar of his shirt, and shouted that she had died because of him. While holding him, she noticed Teru's school uniform, suddenly let him go, handed him the game gun, and walked away. Teru had no idea what had just happened. Then he saw an identification case on the ground, picked it up, and realized what it was. Running through the streets, he thought that it couldn't be true, because the person from before looked like someone who belonged under the sunlight. As he kept running, a girl suddenly came out of an alley and crashed into him, apologizing tensely before running away. Moments later, Teru heard shouting as he turned a corner and was stunned to discover that the girl from before, her face dirty after beating up several boys, was Shon and Rei. Holding her ID card in his hand, he stammered Rei's name. Rei wiped her face and admitted that she had been discovered. Teru, trembling, insisted that he was only trying to return a lost item. Rei coldly observed him and asked with a dead stare if he was the type of guy who knew how to keep a secret. The next scene returned to the school, where Teru was at his desk playing a video game while thinking that he was Mikage Teru and that he was alive. He thought about how he had accidentally discovered the sensational secret of Shonji Rei and had immediately run away to erase his presence so that she wouldn't find him. He calmed himself by saying that since he had escaped right away, his identity probably had not been discovered, until Rei suddenly greeted him beside his desk, asking if he was Mikage because she had something to talk about. Teru panicked and insisted that she had mistaken him for someone else. Rei smiled, but moments later she looked furious. She slammed her foot against the wall behind him and demanded to know why he was pretending. She called him by his full name and class. Teru let out a scream of apology. On the staircase, Rei asked why he was apologizing and moved her face closer to his. Trembling, Teru denied telling anyone what he had seen. Rei interrogated him about whether he had told his parents, teachers, or friends, grabbed his face, and forced him to look at her while he thought that his survival instincts were screaming that his life was in danger. Teru worried about someone seeing them at school, but Rei told him that he clearly understood the situation he was in. She warned him that if he told anyone about this, even the slightest bit, there would be consequences. Trembling, Teru insisted that in any case, he had no one to tell about it. Rei said she didn't believe him. Desperately, Teru asked what he could do to make her believe him. Rei decided that she would force herself to trust him by keeping watch over him until she could truly believe him, from good morning to good night. Teru realized that this meant surveillance. Rei praised him for catching on quickly and said that trying to run away or hide would be useless. Then she declared that she had already made up her mind and told him that from now on they would get along, calling him Mika-hun. Teru weakly agreed. Later, at the arcade, Teru was shocked to see that Rei had followed him there. Rei confidently stated that she was watching him. Teru noticed that Rei looked striking in that environment. Rei commented that she had observed him all day and realized that he truly had no friends. Her words hurt him. Teru replied that it hurt coming from Shon Isen, who had tons of friends. Rei murmured, "Friends ha." Teru noticed that it bothered her and asked what was wrong. Rei brushed it off, but Teru thought the situation felt awkward. Rei then said that the arcade machine wasn't fun and complained that she couldn't hit the target. Teru insisted that it worked fine. Rei got angry and asked if Teru was implying that she was bad at the game. Nervously, Teru denied it while thinking that she was very short-tempered. Rei challenged him to a score competition. After playing, she lost and trembled with frustration. Teru felt guilty because playing in two-player mode was something so new and exciting for him. He revealed that it was the first time he had ever played with someone else. Rei burst into tears, kicking the floor and crying that it was frustrating. Teru thought that she behaved like a creature he couldn't understand and tried to calm her down. Finally, with puffed-up red cheeks, Rei accused him of cheating and asked why she was the one losing. Teru thought she was like a child and asked why she was getting so worked up. Rei admitted that until now, there had never been anything she couldn't do, whether in studying or sports. She grabbed Teru by the shoulder and begged him to teach her the game. Then she said it was perfect because that way she could also keep watching him to make sure he didn't talk. She declared that they would meet again the following night. Teru thought to himself that she never listened. During the following week, they repeatedly met at the arcade and at school. Teru thought that Rei was like a wild horse. One night, Rei was smoking and asked Teru if he had a problem with it. Nervously, Teru denied it. Rei offered him a puff, saying that everyone admired smokers who looked cool. Teru tried to object that smoking at a young age was dangerous, but Rei told him to shut up. Teru finally asked when she had started smoking. Rei looked stunned, then suddenly asked if Mikage liked her. He panicked and asked how she had come to that conclusion. Rei said that she simply thought he was showing interest in people after all. Teru sarcastically replied, wondering if she was a robot. Rei said that she had only been surprised. Then Rei admitted that she had started going out at night and smoking after moving up to the next school level. Teru was surprised that she had actually answered him. He asked why she did it. Rei explained that she had grown tired of being the rich and popular girl, always smiling and living up to other people's expectations. Nervously, Teru pointed out that unlike him, she had many friends. Rei snorted, saying that they didn't seem like friends. People were only interested in the status that came with being Shinji Rei. When people place you on a pedestal, the concept of friends disappears. Teru awkwardly apologized for bringing it up and confessed that he didn't know how to respond. Rei said it was fine and that she also didn't know why she had talked so much. Teru then said that the version of Shounen he had met at night was nice and that he liked that version of her. Rei immediately pulled out a cigarette, stuck one into Teru's mouth, and mocked him for trying to act cool. Teru panicked, asking if he had said something weird. Rei laughed triumphantly, saying that he was weird. She touched his face and warned him that his bangs might catch fire. Then she lit his cigarette with her own. She mocked him for making a strange face and complained when Teru's cigarette fell, saying it was a waste while he begged her to stop. She added that if he took a puff, his break would be over, which made Teru panic and mutter W-sensei while blushing and covering his face. Then the scene returned to the classroom, where Rei called out, Mika Jikuen, and Teru internally responded with, Shinji. Rei told him that he had worked hard, and Teru insisted in his mind that this was school. Rei pointed out that there was nobody else around and said that she would go to the arcade first, telling him to hurry up. Rei smiled while saying that she would see him later. Stunned, Teru replied yes and wondered if this was what it felt like to make plans with someone after school. Someone shouted, hey! And Teru asked if they still wanted something. Two girls, Miki and Sato, approached him. Miki asked Mika Jikuen if he was free because she needed to talk to him, and Sato repeated that she also needed to talk to him. The three of them moved behind the school building. Teru thought that these people were usually around Shon Isan and wondered if they were part of her entourage. Teru asked what they wanted from him, explaining that he had plans after this. Sato said she would be straightforward and asked what Teru's relationship with Rei-sama was. Then she introduced herself as Sato from Class A and introduced Miki, saying that they were Rei-sama's friends. Teru was stunned that they called themselves friends. Sato emphasized that they ate together every day, and Miki added that even in physical education they always partnered up. Sato said that Rei-sama was so cute and always modest, while Miki added that Rei never got angry when boys bothered her. Sato said that Rei was always calm, and Miki said that she truly was a mature woman. Teru thought that everything they were saying was wrong. Sato explained that she had heard there was recently a boy hanging around Rei-sama, so she came to check it out, calling him a nobody. Sato explained that Rei-sama was everyone's admiration and that it was natural to protect friends. That was why she was confronting him. Teru thought to himself that this wasn't right either, because Shon Isan was actually short-tempered, hated losing, was childish, and quick to attack. Teru grabbed his clothes and could barely get out the words, S.A. Manian. Sato stepped closer and said that back in middle school, Teru was always skipped over during attendance, which earned him the nickname, the Heir. She asked if Teru thought he could become someone special with Rei. Sato moved toward him, asking if he had been dreaming that he could become special, and then shouted at him to know his place and his limits. Teru was left shocked as the words, know your place, repeated in his mind. Tato and Miki walked away, saying that was all they had to say. Sweating, Teru sat on the ground and thought that what they had said was true. The scene then changed to the arcade, where Rei was sitting and smoking, commenting that she thought Teru wouldn't come. Teru apologized for being late, and Rei smiled and suggested that they practice. They played, and while Rei concentrated, Teru told her that her aim had improved. Rei blushed and thanked him. When her score surpassed his, Rei thought to herself that it really was true. After the game ended and Rei won, she blushed and asked out loud if she had really won. Then she asked Teru if he had let her win on purpose. Teru said no and added that that was just how good Shinji was, that lately he had been thinking it was only a matter of time before he lost because she learned quickly. He said that with this, the objective had been accomplished. Rei blushed and stammered. But Teru continued by saying that there was no longer any need for her to stay with him. Rei was stunned and asked why. Teru grabbed her hand and explained that if someone discovered that someone like him was spending time with Shounen, it would be strange. He said that he assumed Rei had realized there was nobody he could tell about her nighttime outings, that she must have understood that already, and that even if it had been part of her surveillance of him, it must have been unpleasant. Teru added that Xian Yayan was different from him. Teru bowed and apologized for causing her trouble until now. Hurt, Rei said that she understood. When Teru looked at Rei's face, she was crying. Rei said that he was just like everyone else. She wiped away her tears, said goodbye, and ran off. Teru watched her leave and told himself that it was fine, that it was for her sake, and that returning to their respective places was the right thing to do. Then he looked at the arcade machine, inserted a coin, picked up the gun, and shot zombies. But he wondered why it suddenly wasn't fun anymore. He looked at the corner of his eye and thought about Rei's happy expression. Suddenly, he dropped the gun, grabbed his backpack, and ran out while thinking that the two of them really had enjoyed themselves, that deep in his heart he had been holding on to some kind of hope, and that when Rei said, "Next time let's play a different game," he had been afraid of being rejected and lacked the confidence to stand beside her. He thought that Rei was always waiting for him. Then screams echoed out, and the scene revealed blood on the ground. Rei was surrounded by a group of guys. She wiped the blood from her nose and provoked them, saying that they needed an entire crowd just to face a single girl. A man approached and said it was only a greeting, that he had heard Rei's people had already been put in their place before, and that the Yakuza had something called pride. Ray thought about those guys from last time. The man grabbed her by the collar and commented on how pretty her face and body were, suggesting that she could pay the compensation with her body and asking whether she wanted the shop or them, saying that he would let her choose. Ray showed discomfort, and the man threatened that if she couldn't choose, he would destroy her right there. Ray thought to herself, here we go again. Wondering what exactly she had been waiting for, she believed that even if she showed her true self, nobody would accept her, see her, or love her. She concluded that she had always been alone. Someone's feet entered the scene. It was Teru, who swung his backpack and struck the man in the head with great force. Teru was drenched in sweat, and Ray was left shocked as the man fell to the ground. Ray exclaimed, "My Mikage-kun." And Teru asked if Shounen was okay. Ray stammered that she was fine. Teru held out his hand and said that he had called the police and that they had to run quickly. Shocked, Ray let him take her hand, and the two of them ran away together. Ray followed Tanita while they escaped. Later, they were shown again on the street with Teru carrying Ray on his back. Ray complained that she didn't like it, but Teru said there was no choice because she had twisted her ankle and that they had to move quickly before they were found. Teru commented that the rain had stopped. Ray then asked why Teru had helped her, saying that it was only revenge from a fight she herself had started and that it had nothing to do with him. Teru replied that since she was asking why, he would tell her. Xian Yan wasn't fighting because she liked it at that moment. He mentioned the girl who had come out of the alley with disheveled clothes and said that he thought Ray had been helping someone who had been attacked. Ray admitted that she thought the girl had been assaulted or something similar and that she got involved because she was more irritated than usual with her elite lady lifestyle. Ray said that she thought maybe she would feel better if she hit someone and that a perfect excuse had fallen from the sky. She insisted that she had not acted out of justice and said that she wasn't a good enough person for someone to help her. Teru replied with, "Even so." Ray repeated, "Even so." And Teru, blushing, stammered the word, "friend," asking whether someone really needed a reason to help a friend. Ray was stunned and repeated the word, "friend," and Teru confirmed it with a blush. Ray cried while blushing and reminded him that he had said he no longer needed to stay with her. Teru apologized. Ray said that apology wasn't enough repentance. Teru agreed and awkwardly said that he had a racing game to recommend to her. Ray asked what it was about and whether he wanted to play it together. Teru said yes, but Ray at first said no, making Teru react in confusion. Then Ray said she was joking and asked Teru to tell her about the new game tomorrow during lunch break. Teru asked if they would meet on the usual stairs, but Ray said that instead she would go to the classroom. Teru questioned it, and Ray said that she felt like it would be okay if there were friends around. Teru was confused. The scene changed to the school building the next morning. The students were entering when someone called out, "Mikayun." Teru turned around and saw Ray greeting him with a good morning. Teru jumped in surprise and stammered, asking Shir-san about her outfit. Ray asked if it looked cool on her. Nervously, Teru wondered if it was okay for her to be like that. Ray leaned closer, grabbed his arm, and whispered that since he had made her his friend, he would have to take responsibility, calling it a promise. Teru also blushed and muttered in confusion. Ray hurried him along so they could go. Flustered, Teru asked if she knew what the proper distance between friends was. Ray demanded to know what he meant by that. Teru quickly said it was nothing. Ray told him to speak clearly and lightly kicked him, making Teru cry out in pain.